Everyone, welcome. Thank you so much for choosing to be here with me today. Welcome back if you've been here before, and welcome if you're new here. Today is 6/6, June 6th. So we have an angel number reading for you. So we'll be reading the cards in that way. Just some nice little messages to, whatever group resonates for you, to just kind of guide you along your path, give you some affirmation, some confirmation, things to reflect and think about, and just meditate on a little further. Okay, I have 4 groups for you today. Group 1, Group 2, Group 3, or Group 4. You can pick by the number you can see, by the picture, by the text, anything that resonates for you. When you're ready, all the timestamps are below, and I will see you at the reading that you chose. Everyone, welcome to everyone who picked group number 1. So you all pick the card, Don't Let Pride Get in Your Way, Full Moon in Leo. So if you pick this card, maybe your pride is getting in your way. It's important to remember that pride can show up differently for all of us, right? So just because I'm letting my pride get in the way, that might look different than someone else, or even within ourselves, right? Our pride can stop us in various ways as we are in different situations. So, we can block ourselves, or we can, not be fully present or fully able to receive something just because of our own pride, right? So one way this could look, pride can show up one way as, I'm afraid to ask for help. I'm afraid to reach out to someone. I think I have to do everything on my own. Pride can be, showing up as like being envious of someone. And so instead of asking that person for help, or instead of affirming like, okay, I'm seeing the blueprint of what I want for myself, right? We can put a lot of like coveting and jealousy and resentment on that person instead, right? Pride, sometimes we think pride comes from this place of thinking we're better than other people, which sometimes it does, but pride can also come from place like if you're wounded, as like a way to protect yourself, right? So this thing of like not asking for help, it could be that, maybe you think you're better than other people, but it also could be that maybe, you've been let down by a lot of people in the past, and so you don't want that to happen again. And so letting your pride get in the way is, saying like, I know better, I've been in this situation before, like people always let me down, so I don't want to ask again because I know this is what's going to happen again, right? So pride can show up in a few different ways with all of that, and needing to be right all the time, like being not willing to be wrong, having it have to be your way 100% instead of trying to compromise a little bit, right? These are some other ways pride can show up by getting, and then like you getting in your own way with that. So really being reflective and thinking about, could it be at my job? Could it be in my circumstances? Could it be in my relationship with myself? And, take out how it resonates as always, but just thinking, where am I getting in my own way by things need to be like my exact way, my exact timeline. I have to be 100% right. I have to, whatever's going on with you there, but not letting your pride get in the way is a really good way to be able to, let things flow, and like you have no idea, right? Like maybe you're so afraid to say you're wrong or say you need help, but the minute you do, like it just makes things so much easier. So not letting your pride get in the way. This is one that is challenging, especially for any Leos or fire signs out there, right? But it is worth it if you are able to be humble enough to allow that to kind of dissolve so you can let something else come through. Okay, so don't let your pride get in the way. I'm going to pull some tarot cards for you, group 1, and a few oracle cards, and then we'll close with an affirmation for you like always. Well, that one flew right out of the deck. Okay, yeah, so definitely let yourself be surprised by like what you let go of. Okay, so you have the Page of Cups, the Hangman, and the Three of Cups. So the Page of Cups is about surprises. It's about something happening in a way you didn't expect, or something unfolding in that way. So this is just what I was talking about with pride, right? So like if you are willing to not have it be your way, if you are willing to, admit you were wrong, or admit you needed help, or say, okay, well, it doesn't have to be my way 100%, there can be compromise there, right? Now, obviously, there are boundaries and standards we want to have for ourselves. We want things to exist at a certain level with things, but this is about remembering that, when we are willing to admit we're wrong in situations where we were, not just like overly apologizing to kind of manipulate something or like this, right? But in a time where we genuinely feel like, okay, I was wrong, someone else can be right, or it doesn't have to be my way, I can compromise, right? That's when we let ourselves be surprised by things, and when things can come together in a way that maybe we thought they couldn't before. And this Hangman is just the energy of like, stop playing yourself, stop like, stop stop going into that place of like learned helplessness, right? So this is what I was talking about in the beginning of the video, where maybe, you know, you've been let down by people a lot, and so you're like, well, I'm just not going to ask anyone for help ever again. It's like, okay, how's that working out for you? You know, it's going to get to the point where it's like you're the only one that's hurting. You're like not teaching anyone else a lesson by doing that. You're just hurting yourself. And so, like I said in the beginning, pride can show up differently for everyone. But with this Three of Cups coming out, I think this is really about asking for help, leaning on community, letting people know what's going on in your life. Obviously, like, you don't have to tell every single person, right? You can use discernment about who you tell and in what way and all of that. But really, you know, leaning into this energy of you can say no or yes, or decide how much you share with people, right? But really leaning into community, really leaning into support is what I'm getting here for group one, like, and how your pride might be showing up in terms of like admitting you were wrong, or asking for help, or saying I can't do this on my own, or, you know, whatever that looks like for you, but not holding on to a lot of those feelings of you know, I have to do it by my own completely, and that's the only way it will ever work out, right? Okay, because there's a lot of ways to get you to what you want, is what I'm hearing with these next ones. Okay, so you have the 10 of Pentacles, the 2 of Wands, and the 9 of Wands. So, you know, a lot of us want abundance, we want stability, we want to get to this place where we have these things in our lives we can rely on, that feel good, that feel comfortable for us, right? And so, but sometimes we can block ourselves from those because we think like, it has to be my exact way, this exact thing, whatever. And then when it doesn't go that way, then we're like, well, you know what? I'm just not even trying anymore, or this wasn't meant for me, or since it wasn't this exact person or this exact circumstance, then I'm just not going to do it anymore, all that, right? And so what I'm hearing with this is like, just take some time for contemplation. There's a lot of ways that things can happen for you. God is better at planning our lives for us than we are, and thank God, that's why God is in control and not us, right? We can do what we can with what we're given, but eventually we have to recognize that what God can create for us and do for us is so much more than what we can do for ourselves. And so this is really, I'm just hearing like, take time to reflect, to turn within yourself, to get clear about those things, right? Instead of just being like, has to be this, and this way. And when you are able to kind of like take the blindfold off here, right? You see all these things of like, you know, a lot of times when we, okay, I just got a lot at once. When we try to control stuff, it's because we think that if we don't control it, we're not going to get what we want, or we're not going to be taken care of, or we're not going to whatever, right? The only thing we can control is ourselves. When we try to control things outside of us, it's because we think, okay, well, I have to control this or else it's not going to go the right way. I'm not going to be taken care of. I'm not, you know, whatever. And so this is really saying like, can you just not think that for a second? Okay, easier said than done, I know, but can you just be reflective, and can you just see that like, all these things that could possibly go wrong, like, even if they do, you can still find a way, you can still figure yourself out, you can still pull yourself up, you can still see that even, you know, some of these things you're afraid to let go of is actually going to set you free. The more you try to, whatever you try to control is actually controlling you, because you're trying to make it bend and fold and be your exact way of things. And so this is really saying, okay, take some time to turn inward, to think like, okay, what else could happen here? What's a different possibility for what can happen here? What's going on with these things, right? And again, looking at this energy of like, okay, maybe these things aren't so scary. Maybe I can let go of control of this, and this. Maybe I can look at it from this way instead of that way. Maybe I can do it in this certain other way, right? So how can you kind of let things go from that standpoint, instead of feeling like, oh, I have to control everything, right? Because the less faith we have, the more we try to control stuff, because we don't think we'll get what we want unless we're controlling it, right? But you have to remember that, you know, God is gentle and kind and loving, and does arrange things for us, and things come together for us. It's just when we get stuck in our pattern of like, it has to be this, and this way, that's when things usually don't work out for us the best, because we, you know, again, that pride thing there, right? Like, I'm right, and it has to be my way, and it has to be this way, and it has to be these specific things, and, you know, blah, 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 which isn't necessarily true, of course, because we are not in control of a lot of things we think we are in control of. Okay, and so I'm here for the last cards I pulled for you guys. You have the Empress, the Five of Wands, and the Nine of Swords. So what I'm really hearing with this is like, you have to be willing to like birth, you know, Empress is like mother energy, regardless of your gender, right? But like birthing, like new life, new creations, new ideas, all of those things. Okay. This energy is like, if you want to be willing to have a new life, to birth into a new situation, to be reborn, you have to be willing to face conflict and outside and inside of you. Okay. So the last thing with pride is what I'm hearing is, your pride can get in the way of you feeling like, I don't want to face these things. I don't want to look at this. I don't want to do this. Right. But part of, to get reborn, to get these things to come together or to unfold or to have something new, we have to be willing to face challenges in other people. This doesn't mean you like fight for no reason, right? But there typically is some things we come up against that we have to look at what we're doing with that. And then also face, these stories within ourselves, the things that keep us up at night that maybe we've rejected about ourselves that we don't feel the best about, right? But how can I turn inward and look at those things and give myself grace and compassion and kindness instead of judgment, and like having that lash out onto other people? Because if you do want this reborn energy, if you do want to come again through, the phoenix from the ashes, all of these things, that does require you being humble enough to stop fighting with other people and stop fighting within yourself, and instead offer either setting boundaries with other people so you don't engage with them anymore, or showing up in a more compassionate, clear, kind way with boundaries so that you don't keep adding to these dynamics that don't really help you move forward with where you want to go. Okay, I'm going to pull 2 oracle cards for you guys. Abundance. Okay, so the hollyhock also might be a sign for you, but abundance, this is just a reminder that you can't miss what's for you, first of all. And second of all, sometimes, again, when we think about control and with pride and with I'm afraid to do this, this, and this, right? It's usually coming from a place of lack, of like, there's not something for me, there's not enough for me, there's not an option for me, there's not something out there for me. But this is a reminder that, if you exist, then it exists. And so this isn't like, free for all magical thinking, I don't have to do anything, whatever, right? You still have to do your part and show up. But part of how you get to your abundance and how part of how you get to what's for you is you can't let your pride get in the way. You have to be willing to say you're wrong. It's like, how humble can you be while you're on the path to finding these things to do that? But this is a reminder that it is out there. Just typically the path to get there looks a little different or a lot different than what we want to do for ourselves, or how we want to show up, or what we want these things to look like. That's usually the difference there is, I'll do that, but as long as it's, the way I want it to happen, which, as we know, is not the most helpful for anyone. Okay, then we have the Snapdragon. Release all anger. Don't give power to negative words by saying them. Speak from your higher self and make your communications peaceful and loving. Okay, so this is what I was talking about in terms of like showing up in a way that's, letting your pride get in your way. A lot of times our pride is connected to having to be right, and having it to be, that could be right with other people. It could be right in terms of it has to go my way, right? And so with this, don't give power to negative words by saying them. So this isn't in a spiritual bypassing way, right? We don't want to pretend like you aren't having an emotion you're having, but this is really saying that when you release this anger in terms of, it has to be my way or else, then that's when like a new solution can come through. Or like when you don't need to be right, when you're not angry at someone else because you're so attached to this idea that it has to be my way, and then that like gets taken out on someone else, that's when something else can come through. So, making your communications peaceful and loving. Sometimes when you don't know what to do and you could be stuck in this ego place, you can ask yourself like, okay, do I want to be happy or do I want to be right? What's going on here that I feel like, I'm doing this, this, and this, but do I want to be happy or do I want to be right? Here is a really good reminder that, am I doing this so I can say that I'm right and I did it and look, I'm so smart, I'm better than everyone, right? Or is this really going to give me peace at the end, right? Do I want peace or do I want to be right? So really thinking about that. Because again, anger sometimes in these situations with pride can be something pushed out, when actually we can just turn inward and, kind of like dissolve that within ourselves. But again, this isn't like a spiritual bypassing way, but this is just a reminder that sometimes we get mad about things that aren't actually a big deal, when we should be setting boundaries in places that actually we do need to be setting them. Okay, group 1, I'm going to close your reading with 1 affirmation card. Joy is the ultimate creator. So again, the situation, sometimes our pride can get in the way by thinking like, has to be my way, it has to be this, and this thing, it has to whatever, right? But actually what's happening here is, we're blocking our own peace because we're so committed to being right, right? So exactly what I was talking about, like, do I want peace or do I want to be right? Do I want happy or do I want to be right? And so it's hard for us to feel joy when we're too busy controlling everything and saying, I need to be right. It has to be my way. It has to be this, and this. And again, not in a way that's like, I don't want you all to get the message that I'm telling you to like not have boundaries or standards or anything like that, because you definitely should. It's really good for you, really important. Okay. But this is really thinking about when we are in that place of joy and acceptance and not trying to control other people and making peace with things. That's when this creator energy and this, like, this empress energy of what we were talking about, of like rebirth, creating new things, getting to new situations, having things you want in your life to come to be, right? That comes from the place of joy as the ultimate creator. Yeah, that's everything I have for you. Thank you so much for choosing to be here with me today. If you ever want any more information about me, all that is linked below. Thank you so much, and I hope you have a wonderful day. Hi everyone, welcome. This is for everyone who picked group number 2. So you all pick the card, Take Time to Breathe Out. Just had to breathe out when I read that. Okay, this moon card. So this is a reminder that, sometimes we can get really, when we're really caught up in like, okay, I need to make this happen and this has to go and this has to, when we get caught up in our to-do list, that's typically when we forget to breathe out, to relax, to meditate, to check in with our bodies. That's when we forget to do that the most. So this is a reminder that if you've been stressed, even if you don't feel like you're stressed, right? If you've been working hard, putting a lot of time and energy into things, all of this, right? Like sometimes we can get confused, and because this capitalistic world we live in, right? We can convince ourselves that, okay, well, if I'm doing this, and this, then I don't have time to do 10 minutes of breathing in the morning. I don't have time to go for a leisurely walk. I don't have time to just be still in the moment, right? But actually, when we feel like we don't have time for those, that's when we need to be doing them the most, because those are the things that keep us grounded and clear and keep our nervous system calm, keep us regulated, keep us in our bodies in a way that when we're focused on all these things outside of us and we're just go, 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 when we get disconnected in that way, that's when things don't, usually work out the best for us. So take time to breathe out. So just kind of like, just even if you just do a 5-second breathe in, 5-second breathe out, just a few times throughout the day, that can really change your energy and just remind you and help you to get back into your body. That's the first thing. Then the other thing with this that's coming to me is, taking time to breathe out and like kind of let go of the outcome, let go of how hard you're working, like not how hard you're working, but let go of like, I'm doing this, so it's to get this exact result, right? Sometimes we can't control the outcome. We can only control the process. Sometimes we think like, well, I'm putting all this time and energy into this process, so I'm going to manipulate and control and wrestle with reality to get the specific outcome. But actually, like, we can't do that. We're not in charge of that. I mean, you can, I wouldn't suggest it, but you can't do that. So this is a reminder, take time to breathe out is just about like, letting things go that you can't control, letting go what's not in your hands. Again, not hyper focusing on these things outside of us that we think, okay, I need to do this, and this thing in order to get this, and this, and instead breathing out, letting it go, putting that energy back on ourselves and kind of checking in, of like, how in my body was I today? How am I showing up? What am I thinking about? What am I doing with that? So taking time to breathe out, just setting some boundaries around like, this is what I can control, this is what I can't control, all of those things. So just getting a little bit clear on those. Okay, I'm going to pull some tarot cards for you guys. Group 2. Take time to breathe out, disseminating moon. Yes. Let it go. Okay. All right, so we have the 9 of Pentacles, the Empress, and the 8 of Swords. So yeah, I think, what we're really seeing here is just remember, that fine line of what you can control and what you can't control, right? So this is a lot of like, this person knows what they're doing. They have their abundance. They're in their yard with their little bird. Wow, this is so amazing. Okay. And like, so it's kind of like this place of, I have all these skills and talents and gifts and things I can do in the world and how I want to show up and how I want to be and like all of that, right? That's this card. And then the Empress is like this energy of like, creating new things, birthing new things, regardless of your gender, right? It can be metaphorical birth, right? But what do I want to create? What do I want to put in the world? What do I want to do with all of that? But then we have this card, this Eight of Swords, which is kind of about like learned helplessness, right? You see this person's tied up, but there's no one around them to like reinforce the ties. These like look kind of loose down here, so it's like where am I feel like I've spent my time and energy. So what I was talking about with this take time to breathe out, where I'm like, oh well, I can't control this and this, but I'm trying to control it. Or like I'm putting all my time and energy into this thing when I can also release and let go and not make everything seem so like intense for myself, right? So where with these things, what's going on in terms of letting these things like kind of we get confused because we mix up what we can control and what we can't control. That's why we get so frustrated, because we're putting all this time and energy into this one thing when it's not actually something we can even control. And instead, if we can just get clear and be like, okay, let me put that energy back on myself and realize, the only thing I can control and change is myself, and everything else is just like, me thinking I have this control over this certain thing. So, really giving yourself permission and clarity to turn inward and be like, okay, what am I trying to control that I don't have control over? And where can I better put my energy instead of, working myself up in this really stressed out cycle because I'm trying to do this, this, and this thing. So using some discernment around what works for you and what doesn't is going to grant you some peace and clarity there, right? It can be hard to let go. It's really hard to let go, especially if we've been controlling something for a really long time. But really honoring that is important. Okay, then we have the Knight of Wands, the Emperor. So we just had the Empress, and then we have the Emperor, and then we have Strength. So I feel like, this is again that balance of what I was talking about in the beginning, of really finding where you need to like what I was talking about in terms of the more we feel like we're busy, we don't have time to take care of ourselves, that's actually when you need to take care of yourself the most. Or when you don't feel worthy of taking care of yourself, that's when you need to take care of yourself the most, right? So this Knight of Wands is like go, go, go energy. I'm ready to go, move forward. The horse is galloping, we're moving forward. Wand suit is about action anyway, right? We're moving forward, we're doing all this, all these things are happening, this is what's going on. But then contrast that with the Emperor, right? So the Emperor is more mature energy, someone just sitting in the throne, kind of being like, yeah, I know what's going on. This is what's happening. This is, all of that. So kind of like contrasting that with this, we do need both. We have to do both things. There are times where we need to turn inward. We need to just kind of be with ourselves. And there's times where it's really time for us to like go out there and see what's happening and make something happen, right? And the Strength card is just a reminder that both of these are examples of strength, right? It takes strength to push yourself to do something, to go out there, to change, to make something happen. And it also takes strength to sit there and just be like, okay, I can be with myself. I can breathe. I can check in with my body. I can feel what's going on. I can be in my body. I can hold space for that, right? So strength looks different in different situations. And so remembering that, it's important for us to practice all of the ways of being strong, but remembering and using discernment, okay, in this situation, I need this particular strength, and this other one, I need this, and not judging yourself for what you need from each thing, but instead looking at it as like a tool to help you get, to the way you want to get with each thing, instead of, I need to go all completely go, or I need to go the other way. But again, honoring strength in its different forms and what that looks like, and how you can show up and honor those different ways of being strong. Okay, and then for your last round of tarot, we have the Five of Swords, the Seven of Pentacles, and the Four of Cups. So yeah, I'm just hearing again a lot of discernment. I feel like discernment around giving and receiving. Okay, so this middle card is about contemplation of what you've done for yourself, all the work you've put into things, how things have played out for you, right? This card is about kind of like what we can take, what can go with us, what can't. And this card is about receiving, what we don't receive, what we do receive, all of that. So again, finding this energy of like giving and receiving is the same energy. It's just which end you're on at certain times. So this is really, taking time to breathe out. For the theme for you guys for group 2, this is really about knowing, when is it time for me to accept something? When's it time for me to give something? Because if we're only doing one end, if we're only taking, or if we're only giving, we never actually feel full. What? feel filled up, okay? Because these things, they're a cycle and they play into each other. And so if we're only doing one, then it's not really going to work out, because we need to be doing both to feel connected and clear with that in these ways. So again, what can you do to allow yourself to, again, I'm hearing a lot for you guys, group 2, a lot. What can you do to kind of clean up this energy and kind of get clear about, like, okay, this is where I need to give, this is where I need to receive, this is where I need to take time for myself, this is where I need to focus on others, right? So a lot of discernment will help you give you time to breathe out, help take time to breathe out, take time for yourself, right? All of those things as you continue to get clear as you're on the path, right? And as our lives change, we have to change and adjust those things as well. So not feeling like you need to, completely choose one thing over the other. Okay, and I'm going to pull some oracle cards for you guys. Okay, regenerate. We have moral here. So this is just a reminder that, again, you guys, it's important for us to take time to breathe out. It's important for us to regenerate ourselves, replenish our energy, get clear of that within ourselves, right? So this is really about turning inward and, getting clear about what's working for me, what's not working for me. This is like this, like, right, all these things. So regenerate is knowing, how can I show up for myself? How can I do these things? And again, pouring into yourself, so you know how to give and receive, when is the time to do this, to do that. Those things add up. They are important. They do contribute to your mental health. Okay, chakra clearing, the lotus. By clearing your chakras, you open yourself up to profound wisdom. So if chakra belief is in your wheelhouse of what you believe, great. If not, just kind of take this with a grain of salt here. But this is just a reminder that, taking time to breathe out, what that does is that clears out stagnant energy. It helps you kind of like be in touch with your own energy. It helps you clear out other people's energy, other people's thoughts, things you picked up on throughout the day as you've been out and about. So this is really just a reminder that, when you cleanse yourself of other people's energy by meditating, by praying, by journaling, by going for a walk, by, these things where you're putting your time and energy for yourself, that's when you open yourself up to profound wisdom, because you're not filled up with so much of other people's stuff anymore. So just a reminder that, when it is important, this is part of why we take time for ourselves, and part of why it does feel refreshing is because it's like, oh, I can sit with my own energy. And what does that feel like? What do I think? What do I want? How can I hear God's voice in this moment? Right. So that's and again, however you do that is up to you. But that's the main message here. So it could be, getting your chakras cleared out, getting Reiki, doing meditation, doing visualization of clearing out your chakras, just whatever works for you. But just remembering that, it is important to spend time with yourself to connect to your own energy, so that you're not kind of like constantly sifting through other people's energy and thoughts to hear yourself. And that's, what can happen if we don't spend any time with ourselves. Okay, and I'm going to pull one affirmation card for you guys. So I'm the loving energy of the universe. So you can say universe, you can say God, you can say higher power, whatever you want here. Look at this. This is nice because these are like color scheme the same. Okay. But again, this is just to remember that I'm the loving energy of the universe. It's just a reminder that when you do take time to breathe out, that's why it feels good, because you want to really connect to that love and compassion that God has for us. And when we take time to breathe out and do that, that's what we're connecting to. We're connecting to that part of inside of our soul that is unchangeable no matter what goes on in physical reality. And, I'm the loving energy of the universe is just a reminder that you can tap into that. And that is the point of taking time to breathe out and show up and take care of yourself and just offering yourself some love and compassion. Okay, that's everything I have for you. Thank you so much for choosing to be here with me today. If you ever want any more information about me, all that is linked below. Thank you so much, and I hope you have a wonderful day. Hi everyone, welcome. So everyone who picked group number 3, so you all pick the card. Emotions are running high. Supermoon. Uh-oh, emotions are running high. Okay, so that's fine if that's happening, but it's, it's not so much what emotions we have, it's what we're actually, having this moment between, I'm having this emotion, but how am I acting, right? So what does that look like? What's going on? Where's the gap between I am having this really strong emotion, but what am I doing, right? Sometimes we think like, oh, I don't want to have any emotions because blah, 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 right? But the not the issue, but where things get a little complicated, or where they can kind of show up in our life and we can think we don't like emotions, is because we have the emotion and then we act in a certain way and we're like, oh, this emotion means I'm going to do this, this, and this thing. But when emotions are running high, this is when it's a time to lean on our toolkits, our self-soothing, all of those things, and really just turn inward and be like, okay, this is my emotion. What can I do about it? This is what's going on. What's, all of these things. So if my emotions are running high, what does that look like? And what can I do in between to kind of like manage that for myself? So if my emotion is running high, do I lash out? Do I, do escapist stuff? Do I, think it's something about me, right? So just kind of identifying the emotion, putting a pause in between there and saying, okay, what do I want to do with this emotion? Emotions are usually just visitors. They can come and go. And so like not acting out just because you have the emotion. You can let your thoughts run wild. You can be like, I'm going to do this, this, and this is the end of the world, and this is, it's totally fine. This having the human experience, trusting what comes up for you, all of that. But you don't need to get so hyper focused on that you like, oh no, this is the end all be all. This is what it means for my life. Because sometimes it doesn't. It's just an emotion. It can come and go. It can pass. You don't have to act on it just because you feel a certain thing. So if your emotions are running high, group 3, I would suggest just turning inward, asking myself, what do I need? How can I self-soothe? What's in my healthy toolkit here? Instead of just pushing this energy outward and just having a feeling and feeling like you need to do something, right? Sometimes we do when we have something more long term, there's guidance there, and like, okay, I've been feeling this guidance for a while, so I'm going to act on it. But just the second you have the emotion, you don't necessarily need to act on it right away, being less impulsive. So if emotions are running high, doing some exploration of what are those emotions, what do they mean for me, what do I want to do about them or with them? Maybe it's nothing, maybe it's something, right? But just kind of, just because you have the emotion doesn't mean you're not in control, or you can't choose certain things to happen either way. Okay, I'll pull some tarot cards for you guys. Okay, look at this. So we have the Hangman, the High Priestess, and the Ace of Cups. So yeah, exactly just what I'm talking about. Like, don't be the Hanged Man. Okay, the Hanged Man is about surrendering. It's about or finally you get to the point of surrendering because you're at this place where you were just like in this learned helplessness, or like, I'm never gonna get out of this, or I have this emotion and it's controlling me, right? But actually remembering this High Priestess energy of like self-mastery, right? I have this emotion and I can do this or this about it. I can just observe it. I can do whatever, right? You don't have to have this emotion and make it mean X about a thing about me like forever, right? And when you do that, look what we have, the Ace of Cups, right? So moving from this energy of like learned helplessness and like, oh no, I have this emotion, I can't do anything about it, to like, no, I'm in control. I can have the pause. I don't have to act out on it. I can just observe it with like non-judgmental curiosity. I can see what's happening, right? And then going to this Ace of Cups energy of like, okay, what does this look like for myself? What do I want to have happen? All of those things. So again, really looking at what do you want to do with it? Because the Ace of Cups is overflow, it is abundance, it is feeling like, okay, this was all, I can have a choice here. I can, be in charge of what I'm feeling and how I'm responding to it, instead of just like, having a feeling and like making it take over my whole life. So finding that middle ground of like, okay, what do I want to do? How do I want to handle this? What do I want to look at? Instead of, this Ace of Cups energy of just like overflow. And no, you want to get to that Ace of Cups energy, and you want to get to this place of, okay, I feel, when we feel like we're responding to our emotions instead of being controlled by them, that's where we can tap into this feeling of like, okay, this is just an emotion I'm having. I can do this, this, or this about it. I can figure things out. I can go with that, instead of, again, feeling like you're completely ruled by that emotion if it is running high here, right? So just remembering, like, you can pause, you can wait 3 days before you can make the decision, you can wait 3 seconds, 3 days, 3 years, it's up to you, okay? Right? But just remembering that you do have that layer of choice in there, when maybe you feel like you didn't have it before. Okay, then you have the Four of Pentacles, the Four of Swords, and the Ten of Cups. So again, I'm seeing like some opposing energies with these things, right? So this Four of Pentacles, and is just about discernment. It's about feeling the need to protect yourself. It's about saying like, I'm not giving away this, this, or this. So I want to make it clear that what you choose to do with your emotional process and what that feels like to you is completely up to you. You don't have to listen to me, just some lady on the internet reading tarot, right? You can listen to yourself. What does that feel like? What does that look like? Right. So if you feel like, well, I can't do this, this, and this because I want to protect myself, listen to that. Right. And then you can take some time to see, okay, I actually did need to protect myself, or I didn't need to, or, all of that. So just using discernment around like, when is the time that I want to use and respond to my certain emotions. And then also, making sure you're resting and using prayer. And if you don't pray, right? Like I recommend praying, but like praying or meditating or asking for help or guided journaling or walking in nature or, any of that. But using those two things to kind of flesh out, what do I want to do with these things, right? So this is about resting. Obviously, see the prayer hands are there, right? But just kind of getting clear and tuning inward and asking for help and support of what do I want to do? What does this look like for me? What feels the best? Because look at this. We have 10 of Cups, which is emotional fulfillment. This card is very much about emotional fulfillment. So just really looking at, okay, what do these things mean to me? What do I want to do with them? How can I show up in these ways so it makes it clear for me that I can feel like I have used discernment and I'm protecting myself, right? You don't have to not do anything or not respond to anything, right? If something doesn't feel like resonant for you, you know yourself the best. And so you need to make the decisions that feel the best for you. But this is a reminder that it is helpful and healthy to show up in ways where you do want to protect yourself and you do want to turn inward for guidance, and using all of those tools together can lead you to emotional fulfillment, regardless of the emotions that are running high. And you don't need to, do something just because everyone tells you to do it or because you did it 20 million times before. And so you have to do it again, right? You can use discernment. You can have a different choice. You can have a different pattern. You can have a different life with these things, and all of that. Okay, and then your last round of tarot, I'm going to pull for you guys. Okay, we have the Four of Cups, the Wheel of Fortune, and Strength. So again, I feel like really using your discernment around what you receive, what you allow. This is very similar energy, these fours here, right? This is about like protecting what you have, and this is like using discernment around what you allow yourself to receive or what feels right or clear to you. And when you do that, you don't have to take something just because it's offered to you. You don't have to act on your emotion just because you have the emotion. You can use discernment around these things. And then this Wheel of Fortune here is a reminder that like there's forces at play that are larger than us. The hands of fate are turning things all the time. They're doing all this. So when you use discernment about what you accept, right? Just because something is brought to you doesn't mean you have to say yes to it. It's not a sign every time something comes to you. Sometimes it's just for you to be like, okay, I know this isn't up to my boundaries or standards, or it doesn't feel right or whatever. Or it could be something great, but it's just not a match for you. So how do you lean into those things and trust that the wheels keep moving, things keep going, right? And again, strength here, like your discernment is a strength, right? Your ability to say no to something, no matter how it looks on paper, or no matter how many times you've done it in the past, or no matter, blah, 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 fill in the ego story here, right? How many times you've done all those things and what that looks like in terms of allowing yourself to feel like this, I'm strong, this is the right choice for me, this is what's going on with all of these things. So really holding space for that and trusting that your strength does come from your ability to observe your emotions and use them as information instead of just like being like, I have this emotion, I'm going to do this, this, and this, I'm going to act out on it, right? Your strength comes from being able to use all that as information and going from there instead of feeling like, oh, I had this emotion, so now I need to do, whatever, all of these things. And you can use your discernment. You can decide what works for you, what doesn't work for you. Okay, again, I can't talk group 3 very good. I'm going to pull some oracle cards for you. Okay, we have Brighten for you. So this is, I think, just, brightening the situation, shedding some light on it that can brighten things up, just really getting clear about like, this works for me, this doesn't work for me, this feels good for me, this doesn't feel good for me. But just, again, this energy of just like brightening things up. How is that going for you? What's that looking like? All of these things, and brightening that instead of feeling like, like just not looking at it, not feeling like, oh, I can't change anything, this can't be different, this can't whatever, but again, shining some light on it, brightening it up. And also just, looking at something beautiful and bright and yellow might be good for you. Could be the sun, could be going outside in nature, looking at flowers, but just, giving yourself the ability to pause and reflect and look at things can also be really affirming for you. Okay, we'll do one more. Cleanse your energy, the African violet flower. When you release negativity, the answer to your question shines through. So again, this isn't a spiritually bypassing way, right? Like just think positive thoughts. Like I don't condone that at all. I don't think that's helpful. But cleanse your energy is a reminder that when we have these emotions, if they are running really high, if we feel like I'm swept up in this, I don't have a choice, like whatever, right? When we can actually not release the negativity, but just take some time to calm down, to deep breathe, to self-soothe. What does that look like, right? Then the answer to your question shines through. It's like when we stop focusing so much on how do I fix and manipulate and do all this stuff, or I have these really big emotions, right? When we can kind of calm down and when we can cleanse our energy by doing something that feels good to us, by connecting to ourselves, by spending time in nature, to, whatever that looks like, that's when we can kind of get the guidance, because it's like, watch pot never boils. You focus and focus and focus and focus, and then nothing ever happens, right? So cleanse your energy there can just be a reminder, like sometimes you're like so caught up in the cycle of emotions of like, why am I doing this? Why am I acting like this? Why? And then it's like, okay, actually I can detach from this and I can take a step back and I don't have to act on my emotions right now. I can give it a little time and then like move forward with that. Okay, and then we're going to close with one affirmation card for you guys. Group 3. Obstacles or detours in the right direction. Okay, this reminds me of this saying, if there's no obstacles, it's not the right way, right? Like something is not that we want, things that are incredibly hard to be the normal part of our lives, right? But it's not just the direction we're going, it's what we learn while we're in that direction and while we're moving forward. So obstacles or detours in the right direction. So maybe your emotions are running high, group 3, because it's time for you to learn how to observe those emotions, to manage them, to look at them in a way that you haven't before. So if you're like, oh my God, I already dealt with this before, or I don't want to do this or whatever, just remember obstacles or detours in the right direction. When you are doing the things that feel good for you, maybe not even feel good, but are good for you, obstacles and things that come up along the way, challenges, those are kind of like preparing you to get you to where you're going, instead of just like, oh, straight sailing through, did it, no problem, right? There's very few things in life that when we're starting out or we want something different or we want to change, that it'll just be like smooth sailing instantly, right? So obstacles or detours in the right direction. Don't get discouraged if you're having to learn emotional management regulation for the first time in your life. A lot of us have to learn that. We were not taught that when we were children. So just having faith, keep moving forward one thing at a time, being consistent with it, being kind and compassionate with yourself about it. Okay, obstacles or detours in the right direction. Okay, that's everything I have for you. Thank you so much for choosing to be here with me today. If you ever want any more information about me, all that is linked below. Thank you so much, and I hope you have a wonderful day. Hi, everyone. Welcome. This is for everyone who picked group number 4. So you all picked the card, A Win-Win Outcome is Forecast. Full moon in Libra. So this is, we love the scales of balance here. We love things balancing out, evening the score here. Okay, but this card is a reminder that a win-win outcome is forecast. This means that sometimes we think like, well, if I get this, then that means this person won't get this, or if I say yes to this, then I have to lose this other thing, or, it's kind of like this, we think of things as like gain and loss, which is true, right? But you can also remember that sometimes when I say yes to this one thing, even if I lose this other thing, then the emotional fulfillment that comes from saying yes from this one thing will be so much greater that that loss won't even feel like a loss. It will feel like, oh, that served its purpose. Now I can let it go and I can grow into this new place I want to grow into, right? So just feeling like, a win-win outcome is forecast doesn't mean that, it's not a zero-sum game. It's not taking something from someone, right? But just having faith that things always, God always balances things out and even things out for us. And there's so many ways that something that, we think like, oh, I'm losing this or I'm whatever. But if we're patient enough and we give it enough time and we make meaning around it, we can realize that like, okay, this actually ended up being something that was helpful and supportive for me too. So a win-win outcome is forecast is a reminder that when you say yes to something, even if there are things that we lose along the way, not everything can come with us, but we can remember that, the scales are they always want to be balanced. They're always, sorting themselves out. There's self-correction going on there. So just remembering that, if it feels like, oh no, I'm going to have to lose this thing, like you don't know what you're going to gain emotionally, physically, whatever, spiritually. You don't know what you're going to get from having to say no to something, or being brave enough to say no to something, being brave enough to let something go to get on the other side. And that also is, with other people, because like you have your intuition and your guidance for a reason. And so every time you say no to someone else or set boundaries or whatever, like they're learning their lesson too, right? When you're in relationship with people, you have your lessons and they have their lessons. And when you're interacting with each other, you're learning together. And so just remembering that, like, no matter what you did to try to people please someone, or, look a certain way for them, if you do that, that actually takes away from yourself, because you're not like giving yourself permission to really be who you need to be, and get clear about that. So a win-win outcome is forecast is a reminder that when you trust your intuition and you don't abandon yourself, or you don't, kind of pretend like you're not feeling a certain way because of certain things, then that's actually what comes from the win-win moment, because you actually are showing up for yourself, and listening to, that your intuitive guidance, which is like God very clearly directing us with these things to move forward. Okay, I'm going to look at your tarot cards. Group 4. Whoa. Oh my gosh, look at this. So you have the 6 of Cups, Temperance, and the 9 of Cups. Before I read the other ones, I just want to say Temperance is about refilling the cup, finding balance with all of these things. So if you feel like, how am I going to find balance from this decision I'm making, or this thing I chose, or this pattern I'm in, it's coming, okay? Things, it's like when you throw a rock in a stream and it like gets muddy and cloudy for a second, but then once everything settles, right, it's clear, it's calm, it's balanced again. So trying to really have faith that that will happen for you eventually. Things will settle out and rebalance, but sometimes, the explosion, there has to be a little bit of calm between that. So it's the first thing I want to say with these. But we have the 6 of Cups and the 9 of Cups also with this Temperance. So with this energy, I really think it's about just honoring, when we're children, we have a really clear connection to our intuitive guidance, and really honoring that as adults as we get older. And really thinking about, okay, what can I tune inward for myself? How can I hold space for that? How can I really connect to that and honor that with myself? Because as we get older as adults, we think like, okay, I need to do this so that this thing can happen. And we get so in our brains, and like, okay, we're not stupid. You have to use logic. You have to like make decisions from a place of like being conscientious of certain things, right? But sometimes we get really clear guidance around like, actually, I want to do this instead of that, or actually it's time for this relationship to end, or actually it's time for me to do this. But we think like, okay, well, that doesn't make sense on paper, or this will look bad or whatever. And so we kind of like don't give ourselves permission to actually do that. So what I'm saying is what I'm hearing is the more you do that, the more things will balance out, and then the more emotional fulfillment you'll fulfill, and your wishes will be granted, right? Cups is about emotions. This 9 of Cups is about like a gift being given, a wish being granted, collecting emotional fulfillment here, reaching emotional fulfillment. So just remembering, like, the more you listen to yourself and you make decisions that feel resonant and clear and good for you, and coming from a place of like respecting yourself, then no matter how things turn out, we tend to feel better with the results, because we have that clear connection with ourselves, and we listen to and trusted ourselves with that. Right. So this is really trusting that when you do listen to your intuition, regardless of how it turns out, it is a win-win, because again, that baseline of, okay, I trusted myself. I listened to the guidance I received. I made a choice that aligns with self-respect, right? So regardless of what we lose or don't get or whatever happens, like when we trust ourselves, we can feel peace, because we made the choice that comes from a place of, again, not like ego driven and like, oh, I'm the best, right? But that comes from this place of, this is actually what feels the best for me. And so regardless of what happens, I'm happy with the choice I made and what I did, because that reflects my integrity, my relationship with myself, all of that. Oh my God. Okay, we have the Queen of Pentacles, the Queen of Cups, and the Hierophant. So yeah, I'm really hearing like, regardless of your gender, Queen is like mastery of these suits, right? So this is mastery of like physical reality, of abundance, of win-win, and this is also emotional mastery, right? So this is really I'm really hearing like when you listen to yourself, when you set these boundaries, when you get clear with this, like this is going to result in feeling like things in physical reality feeling like a match for you, and then feeling proud and connected to your own emotions. So just feeling like, a win-win can also be when you listen to yourself, you get this win-win in like your relationship with yourself, with your emotions, but you also get it in physical reality and these things for you with all of that. And then the Hierophant here, this is like more traditional energy. I usually read this card as like going back to the basics. So like, what does it look like for me to develop a relationship with myself? For those of us who use these tools for a long time, sometimes we can forget that the simple basic tools always work. They're simple and basic for a reason, right? So what does it look like? What would it look like for me to have integrity with myself, to feel connected to myself, to know what I want, to trust the decisions I'm making, to act in a way that reflects my feelings that I know I have, right? So really using those tools to, and again, everyone's toolkit looks different, but using those tools to really honor what that looks like so you can get to that place with those two things, and holding space for that instead of, you know, um instead of like getting pushed around by these things outside of us. But again, how can you use that toolkit to cultivate those feelings of acceptance and integrity and self-respect and listening to myself, and I know what I feel and I know what I want, and all those things. Okay, we'll pull 3 more tarot cards for you. I mean, look at this. Another card with the scales on there, right? So this is like the whole thing. Finding balance is the whole theme of your reading group 4. Okay, so we have the 6 of Pentacles, the 5 of Pentacles, and the 6 of Swords. Okay, so this is about finding balance between giving and receiving, right? So this could be within yourself, right? Like, so sometimes people describe prayer as like a time to talk, and meditation is a time to listen to our higher power. So do I have a balance of that, right? Do I have a balance of giving and receiving with myself, right? I'm gonna indulge myself, I'm gonna restrict myself. Not restrict in like a negative way, right? Of course, but just restrict in like discipline, and this is what I'm doing, and this is what I said I would do, so I'm gonna act like that. Giving and receiving in terms of external help versus making something happen for myself. We need balance in all of these things. Otherwise, we're going to be left out in the cold. We're not going to feel like what we're doing is enough. We're not going to feel taken care of. And sometimes that comes with saying no, having boundaries, and loss that can come from that, right? So when we find this balance in ourselves, sometimes something that worked for us in the past isn't going to work for us as we keep moving forward. And so we do have to let go of that. Sometimes it can be loss, even losses we choose can feel sad, can feel upsetting, can feel heartbreaking because we have to let something go. But again, what we were talking about at the beginning of your reading, with this win-win situation, something we let go of, even that, although it might be painful, the peace we get on the other side, the affirmation of ourselves we get on the other side, all of that can actually feel like, okay, that was worth it because now that I'm here, this and this unfolded. And so it feels like clear and resonant for me. Okay, I'm going to pull 2 oracle cards for you. Group 4. Sacred. Okay, so the first thing I heard when I read this word sacred is your energy is sacred, your time is sacred, you are sacred. And so again, really making decisions that honor that, and not making decisions that honor that and know that, okay, I'm making this choice because I'm sacred, not because I'm scared of X, Y, or Z thing, right? So if I know I'm sacred, then I know this is and this can happen, and I know I deserve to respect myself. I know I deserve to say yes to certain things, say no to certain things, with all of that. So remembering you are sacred, all of that is important. Okay, you are lovable, the camellia flower. Camellia flower. Love who you are as you're created perfectly. Everything about your true self is beautiful. That's exactly what I said with this sacred card. Okay, so just remembering like you are worth saying no, having these boundaries, finding balance, figuring out what works for you, what doesn't work for you, right? So all of these things are important as you continue to move forward, and trust that, you are lovable, you are ready to make these things happen and do all of those things for yourself. So again, loving who you are as you're created perfectly, remembering that all these things do add up for yourself there. Okay, and we'll close with 1 affirmation card for you, group 4. The presence of love will always cast out fear. So this is just what I was talking about. This isn't to spiritually bypass it all, but this is a reminder that when you do make choices from the place of sacredness, from respecting yourself, from knowing your worth versus this fearful place of, I don't want to lose this thing, or I'm scared, or what am I going to be if this happens, or whatever, right? Totally different energy. So this is just remember that the presence of love will always cast out fear. So moving yourself into making these decisions. And look at this. This is very similar cards here. Okay. So really group 4, if you pick this group, this is a really strong message for you here. But remembering these things even out when we come from a place of trust and integrity and self-respect and faith, even when it feels like we can't act that way for ourselves. Okay, that's everything I have for you. Thank you so much for choosing to be here with me today. If you want any more information about me, all that is linked below. Thank you so much, and I hope you have a wonderful day.